You're listening to the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, featuring real business owners telling real stories about their real business experiences. Here are your hosts, John Chiappetta and Eric Jorn.
All right, thanks, listeners, for tuning back in to Blood, Sweat, and Business. Today on the podcast, we have Colten Ramsey from Ramsey Repair out in Iowa. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. Colten, tell us a little bit about your business.
Well, we kind of got two shops right next to each other, about 8,000 square feet total in the two shops. Not much for office space. We have a waiting room, and I got 6 lifts, 5 2-posts, and a 4-post. Me, one tech, and a front end person to help with customer service.
Awesome.
Yeah, a lot of space, but not a lot of people. And
Ready
we kind of
fill it in over time, right? Grow the right way.
Yep, get big pants and then fill them in.
I like that. How'd you get started?
Well, let's see. I got 2 ag degrees. I was going to be like a geospatial, like a GPS person for ag stuff, because I was a big ag area. But I got done with school with that. Jobs were far and few between for that position. So I had all the tools because I went for diesel and geospatial. I did both of those. I didn't do any wrenching right after school. But I had a tillage equipment assembly business I was doing. So I was using the tools for that. And I got into excavating and some other stuff for a while. And then it kind of slowed down and I was looking for something to do. So I got a job at a local shop with an independent guy, just me and him. And then he sold to another company. I worked there for like a year and a half. And I needed more tools was my problem. And I needed to make more money to get more tools. So I would work my regular job. And then after work, I would make some extra money doing some jobs on the side. You know, I found an ad on Craigslist that somebody needed a strut mount replaced and they'd pay somebody $80 to do it. And I said, heck, I can do that. So I was in my garage. I didn't have any lights. It was just, had some tools, did it on the ground with some flashlights and some hand tools, made $80. And I said, I could probably do that again. And that guy started telling his friends and they started telling their friends. And pretty soon I was doing a lot of work out of my garage after work.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's I was literally started in my garage, did probably 2 years in my garage, got a shop. I shared a shop with somebody for 4 or 5 months, grew out of that, moved into my place that I'm at now, which was the first shop I rented was 4,500 square feet. And then the one right in front of it came open. So I just rented that one up too, and we filled them in. But that was from going from my garage to where we're at now was about 3 years ago.
Okay.
So it's kind of been a nonstop race, just keep going. And I was lucky enough here about a year and a half ago, exactly. I quit my full-time job and started doing this full-time. So my first full year in business was only part-time after work, and we still did almost 400,000 that year.
That's so impressive, isn't it?
And how many techs did you have doing that?
Me, yeah, part-time. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
You're
me
hustling.
and a part-time guy. Yeah, we doubled real fast, and we're plateauing here a little bit. So this kind of branches off into the other things that we're going to talk about, the coaching and, you know, that's how I'm trying to get through the plateau that we're at right now.
Definitely. So I'm thinking about a new shop owner, somebody that maybe was in your position, right? There's a huge upfront capital investment to start an organic shop, because essentially you started an organic shop that started from your garage.
Yep.
Any idea how much over those years that you had to acquire in tools, equipment, lifts, build outs?
A lot. It was at first it was make some money, buy some tools, make some money, buy some tools. I didn't have enough to buy everything. So I would write down and make a list of what I needed and kind of prioritize it. And to me, it was, what could I buy that would make me enough money back quicker so I could buy something else on the list? So I try to prioritize things that I would use the most. And one of the first things that I started, I'll tell anybody, a ball joint press will make you a lot of money. That thing, for whatever it costs, you can make your money back on a ball joint press so fast. But then got lifts, and then an AC machine, and then tire machine and balancer, and just finding good deals on stuff too. And then working with local vendors. I did a lot of 6 months, same as cash, which was, I didn't do any calculating when I did it either. It was just it was a gut feeling. It would say, I think I could make those payments. We'll be good. Go ahead and order them. And it just kind of worked out, luckily. But yeah, I was doing a lot of gut feeling stuff in the beginning and working a lot.
Totally. Now, that's one of the really cool parts about your story, right? Is essentially you didn't go out and take out a loan or borrow money from somebody to get this started, and started with all the equipment, everything you needed at once. I think that's a fear that a lot of new business owners have, is, I need to be 100% prepared, 100% equipped to get things started. And I mean, you kind of have a really good story where, hey, I kept my full-time job. I did this as a side hustle for a while. I got a proof of concept. I started building business. I started acquiring some of the stuff I needed. Even when I branched out on my own, I didn't have everything I needed. I got it as I needed it. I didn't have it up front. And that should be inspirational to somebody looking to start, a shop, really any business.
Yeah. Right? I still do my list thing. I still have a list of stuff we need. And I still kind of try to do it the same way. The only problem is the list of things is they're expensive things now. It takes a little longer to acquire them.
Yeah.
Are you opposed? Are you risk adverse to doing debt to buy something, or is it just something you just don't want to do?
Currently, what I'm trying to do is get most of my debt cleaned up, and then I'm okay with taking on some more. But right now, I'm just trying to clean everything up and make it zero. I've got a little bit of things here and there that I'm trying to wrap up. But I don't really I can operate on what I have right now for a while. So I could probably come up with most of it on my own and then loan a little bit, kind of like that. With the economy and stuff, I don't know about getting a whole lot into debt, but I'm okay with some. If it's going to pay me back too, if I can calculate some numbers and I'm going to buy a piece of equipment, and I know, I bought a hot seat pressure washer, and we sell a service where we do oil leaks or anything like that. We sell a pressure wash and degrease with it. I know exactly how many of those services I needed to sell to make the pressure washer worth it. And it easily works out. So that was an easy investment to buy that.
Nice. Speaking of possible recession, so obviously that's kind of top of mind for a lot of shop owners, business owners, everybody in general, is we know something economic bad is probably going to happen. And my opinion, everybody's got an opinion on it, right? As of right now, we got the financial advisor in the room, so I guess he could provide probably a more scientific opinion on it than me.
No, not so much. Really. I suppose. I mean, if you're looking at some of the indicators, yeah. I mean, interest rates are going up, and you're going to look at your housing starts, and you're going to look at all those construction and all those kind of numbers. But believe it or not, if you look at the underlying business balance sheets, they're actually still pretty darn good. Quite frankly, a lot of people still have pretty good cash on the books. But so, I mean, if you're looking for an economic, I think if we do have a downturn, I don't think it's going to be as bad as what people may think. But again, opinion. But I'm not saying to gamble your business and roll the dice on it. But I mean, I think for like you're saying, debt, I think if you're looking for something, obviously you're going to be paying a higher interest rate right now. If you wanted to get a piece of machinery, and I'm assuming you're probably looking at it and saying, okay, I want a reduced amount of time frame that I would have it out there. How much? I think your mindset of how much does it cost to, how much do I have to charge, and how long is it going to take me to get, pay off that machine so much. I think those are all great ways of looking at how to assess if that piece of equipment is going to work for you or not. And then obviously you're going to probably have a good idea of if it's going to, if there's a demand for that type of service as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the hardest part is trying to figure out the demand for it. I suppose, trying to figure out, okay, if you're looking at other shops and saying, okay, what services are they offering? It's not like they're going to open the books and say, hey, yeah, this is all working for us. But
some of them are kind of a necessity that I got to get eventually, like a 1234 AC machine. I don't have one yet. I keep track of what cars come in and what have them. And it's becoming more and more frequent that they're coming in. So it's inevitable I'm going to have to get one at some point here. So that's kind of up there on the list for me.
That's an interesting question. So there were probably points in time when you didn't have the right tool for the right job. How did you handle the situations like that?
So I got a rule: if I borrow it twice, I buy it most of the time.
Okay. So you have relationships with others in which you've been able to borrow tools to get what you need to done.
Yeah. Or I'll work with another shop that has, like right now, if I need an AC with a 1234 evacuated or something, because I got the tools to do the repairs, find a leak. If there is a leak, I have special leak detection equipment. I just don't have the equipment to do the 1234 stuff. So yeah, I've contacted other shops that have them and they'll work with me. I'll pay them. They'll evac it down. Then I'll do the repairs and take it back and have it charged up.
Nice. I mean, again, right. That flexibility, kind of that working with actually this kind of makes me think of that Parkinson's law that they talk about in Profit First a lot, right? You're going to be, if you don't have all this excess resources in front of you, you're going to get creative and inventive to get things done. And that sounds like your journey.
Yeah. Well, like in a alignment rack, like if you went out and bought a brand new one, you're going to have $85,000 racked up in a rack in a machine. Place across the street from me has a brand new one. I don't have the space for one anyways. So I send my alignments next door to have them done by them. And then we do a lot more like bigger in-depth jobs, diagnostic work, electrical work. They run into an issue with that. They send that over our way. So just kind of working with everybody around you.
That's smart. Yeah. Have those relationships, understanding what are my strengths? I mean, we're not all that different, right? Our business model isn't to go do, anybody's tax return off the street, or to work on a, $100 million company that maybe wants to go public. Like both of those aren't really good fits for us. So we have relationships with other firms where we're like, hey, that's not us, but these people can help you. And in return, from time to time we'll get, hey, this person needs monthly accounting work. They want advice. They want payroll. Payroll is a big one for us where they don't handle payroll because it can get sticky. So they refer it over to us and it's an ideal fit. And we're super happy with that too. And having those strategic relationships with, what some people might look at as competitors, but I look at as friends. Yep. That's huge as a business owner. So you're already checking a lot of boxes so young in your business career. That's awesome.
Well, I guess I don't know anything about old school, but I can talk like what I've heard about old school is that, it might've been, you don't want to go talk to the guy down the road because that's your competition, but there's fewer and fewer shops, there's shops closing down. I think there's fewer and fewer, and there's just more and more and more cars to work on. We're short techs. Like, what was it? I saw an article like we need 250,000 techs a year and we're only getting 50,000 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's not like if I go down the road and they get some customers that used to come to me or something, like there's plenty of cars to work on. So,
and I feel like the complexity of the cars, obviously getting that much more, each car is more difficult to work on. I mean,
they're not, and they're not all exactly the same. This system on this car is similar, but not exactly the same to something on another car. And then you start talking about, I don't do any of it at the moment or anything, but like start talking about ADAS stuff. And that's
it's a whole nother world.
People don't understand I don't even fully understand what's all involved in it, but I got the gist of it. And anytime you mess with something that's going to change ride height or something on a car, all those safety systems have to be recalibrated per manufacturer, how they say to do it. Otherwise there's,
some serious consequences.
Yeah. Like if somebody gets in an accident, you better hope you had your T's crossed and your I's dotted.
Yep.
It's always interesting hearing people talk about the automotive repair industry. And then I look back and I read articles about what we got going on in our industry, and I look at our business, and the pain points are so similar, right? We got demand feels unlimited because all the old firms are closing or selling, right? There's a lot of people that hung shingles and were solo practitioner offices, and a lot of them are retiring. There's so many less accountants, let alone CPAs, entering the industry. I think the average CPA is beyond retirement age. So staffing for us is also probably our number one concern. Is it's not finding the demand in the marketplace. The work has gotten a lot more complex over the last several years. It's definitely moved a lot faster, and technology is moving things in faster, where pen and paper thinkers are really struggling, and you really need to be a technology person to work in our industry. And I mean, that sounds just like the new technician of tomorrow for an auto repair shop, right? You're not a parts changer. You're not a grease monkey. You are a true technician. And to a certain extent, you're going to become a computer programmer. It's
pretty much. I've said there needs to be a different term for whatever we do. We need to come up with a whole, like, technician might cover it, but mechanic doesn't cover it anymore.
Yeah. These cars are becoming less and less mechanical every year.
Yeah. I don't care who it is. Nobody knows everything about everything. That's what I love about automotive, is I learn probably something new every single day. And even the things that I think I do know, it'll just square me right back up sometimes when I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. Nope, didn't know that.
So that's actually a good question. How do you keep yourself educated and in line? So like for us, we have to do continuing education each year. Sometimes that's hard to meet all the education requirements to maintain your license. And it's not because there's not a plethora of classes to take. It's just time. So I'm assuming you're seems like you're cranking out cars, and you don't have you're doing a lot on your own. How do you keep yourself educated?
So unfortunately with automotive, there's no, at least in Iowa, there's no license that you have to have. So any Joe Blow technically can work on cars. But people who care and want to do it right, I'm curious. That's why I continue learning. And I find that sometimes information, just reading something, you'll learn something that makes your job so much easier because you read it and you had some education to it, rather than just out here just poking at stuff, trying to figure it out. I do a lot of reading, and then I try to go to as many classes as I can. Vision's a big one in Kansas City. So we shut down and go to Vision, and we do the whole thing. Last year was the first year I went. That was awesome. Lots of information, and networking, meeting people is another big one. So there's things that I'm really interested in that I'll read a bunch about, and I'll get to know them pretty well, but I can't learn everything. So I know what other people are interested in. And if I have a question about something with that, hopefully I can know somebody to reach out to them and continuously learn. So it's a lot of networking. Yeah. And then just constantly reading.
That's the key. I mean, I'm dealing with some I've seen for the first time in my career. I have a client selling to private equity, and they're doing a F reorganization prior to the sale. We don't see a lot of that in our world, in the being acquired by private equity space and having intellectual property attached to that. I think that's about it. It's a super delved in niche, and fortunately I have resources where I can go and tap into and learn about it in a pretty efficient manner, but you just can't know everything. That's impossible. That's where, there's a lot of values in being part of a group. So, you guys are a Milwaukee shop, Midwest Auto Care Alliance.
Yeah.
So there's one partnership. What other groups are you in that help keep you up to date with what's going on and how to be a business owner too?
Well, we're in the Milwaukee, the Midwest Auto Care Alliance. And then I just started as a TechNet through Advanced. And then I do Shop Fix Academy for coaching. So I've got a coach that I talk to once a week, anything business related, shop related, personal, just whatever, it's just somebody to help out with anything that I'm going through or anything pretty much. It's not always business. It's a lot of business, but it's like, I don't have to spend 10 years making mistakes and learning from them. I can talk to somebody who's been there and got the t-shirt, and they can help me not have to spend 10 years learning that stuff. I could do it in, say, 2 years if I had somebody to help me say, don't do this because that's a mistake. I mean, you're always going to have mistakes, but trying to avoid them so I try to avoid mistakes if you can.
Yeah. Sometimes mistakes are the best ways to learn, but sometimes they can be very costly. So if you can avoid that, for sure. Oh, so what are some of the things that you like working with your coach with? What are some of the things that you are probably most grateful for, I guess, if you can?
Learning what a P&L is.
Okay.
Learning what to look at for percentages on a P&L. It's just like working on a car. I mean, when we're working on a car, we're finding breadcrumbs to figure out a problem. So, I mean, if you're going to look at your business like a car and you have a problem, you go in there and you start taking measurements, looking at data, look at some stuff, and you can put the pieces together as to what's wrong with it. Then that helps you be able to fix it. But if you just start throwing parts at a car, you might have to throw a lot of parts at it to fix it. It costs you more than if you just did some diag. So kind of with the business, rather than just trying this and that gut feeling stuff,
right?
If we sit down and we dive into some stuff, you can figure out a lot by looking at some data and some numbers.
Oh, totally.
And that's for the accounting stuff. And I haven't done tons of marketing yet. I do some Facebook advertising, but marketing's a whole nother thing I got to figure.
The different layers of business. I mean, marketing for a small business is, what was, years and years ago, you just need to have a website on, you had mailers, right? And then there was a short stint of social media, and you're like, hell, have my kid do your social media or something like that. And now all of a sudden that's the primary way to market is, it's almost for any business. If you want to get into true marketing, either you're going to outsource it for a significant cost, or you're going to have a full-time employee dedicated to that. It's significant to be out there and to be competitive in the marketing space.
I don't think it's terrible though for what you get back. So if you find the right place, it's what are you going to spend and what are you going to get back? Like when I was looking at when I had my first website built, I was like, boy, that's that much every month. What? But then I kind of went, well, if 2 people come in here from that per month, I'm ahead. And yeah, it definitely brings at least 2 people in. So sometimes you just try something out for a while and see how it goes.
And that's how you've evolved as a business owner, right? A lot of business owners might get stuck thinking, especially if you're new to owning a business, right? So now your mindset of spending money is like a consumer. As a consumer, how often do we measure ROI on what we're buying? Very infrequently, because we're not looking for economic gain when we go to spend money on whatever it might be, right? You're not marketing to do something
right
in your personal life. But as a business owner, right, now all of a sudden, maybe I'm spending $3,000 to $5,000 a month on my marketing budget. And you're like, what else in my life do I spend $3,000 to $5,000 a month on? Nothing.
Yeah.
So that's a shock, right? Because you got a flat dollar amount shock, $36,000 to $55,000 a year or $60,000 a year. And that's a ton of money. However, when you become mature as a business owner, you start thinking about, okay, if I acquire a customer and it costs me X dollar amount and their lifetime value of that customer is X, my ROI on those marketing dollars spent is really good. And I'm actually going to make more money by spending that money.
Yep. I think sometimes cut, get the bottom line low. It works. Yeah. But what did you lose? What did you cut? I think sometimes you can also spend and gain too. So it's kind of a balance between cut and spend.
Well, especially if we're heading into a recessionary phase, it's probably going to be some of the best time to spend money on marketing, because what things do most business owners cut first for an expense when things slow down? It's
everybody cuts marketing. Yeah.
Right? Because you can still operate your business, right? Number one, you got to still operate your business. And you're always going to have some level of consumer demand, and it's really hard to cut employees. So everybody's eyes always drop down to marketing. So when you cut marketing, especially things like paid ad spend, like fake Facebook ads, Google ads, well, guess what? When the demand goes down, the price goes down for those ads. So if you're willing to jack your spend up on those paid ads, you could really build a significant customer base during a recessionary period by being brave enough to spend during a scary time.
And you don't have to spend tons if you can figure out a clever way. Just people basically just have to know about you. Yeah. That's all. I mean, you don't have to spend tons. You just have to somehow, like, I wrapped 3 vehicles, drive them around town all over the place. Doesn't matter. I mean, everybody just sees them all over. It just lets them, and you get something is once you see it twice, it kind of just like sticks in your brain. So if I drove by somebody and they saw me twice, they might think next time the car breaks down, that van drives by here all the time. Maybe I'll call them.
Are you measuring that right now?
I can't. I don't know how to measure who saw my van. I ask everybody how they heard about us.
Yeah.
Google's our biggest one.
Google's your biggest one. One of the challenges in measuring marketing is things like, hey, they might have actually first known you by seeing that van, but then they Googled you to get the details.
Yeah.
And then when you ask them, they're going to think of the most recent thing they did. Hey, I Googled you. That's how I found you. But really, I saw your van. Yep. That's what caught your attention. I mean, we had these same discussions when we even started this podcast of, how do you attribute, ROI? If, we don't do this. And I said, that was my initial response is, we're not doing this to bring in new business. We're doing this because we think this is a platform to provide value to other business owners. However, if you want to try to measure that, what are the chances that that person listens to our podcast and comes straight to our website? Very unlikely. More likely that they're going to come through Google, and now all of a sudden they're a Google lead.
Yep.
And it works any content creation works exactly the same way. It's very hard to attribute directly.
I'm still, like I said, working on the marketing thing. I'm just like, I'm still doing my marketing with gut feelings. Some weekend, I'll throw up some Facebook posts and I'll do my own Facebook ads and try some stuff out. I did just switch my website and Google AdWords and Google stuff over to a different company. And I'm pretty excited about that. I think that's going to be a freshen up. Like, you got to do like a 2.0. I've been doing something for 3 years. It just needed to be something fresh and new.
Definitely.
Are you working with your coach on the marketing?
Not so much. No, I'm still working on like the accounting stuff and the numbers and getting all that. I'm a systems. Like, I like having a certain way to do stuff. So the shop systems, I'm still working on systems. There's just so much to do all the time. I can't.
Right.
On my list of stuff to do never ends. I just kind of got to pick on one thing and stick to it for a while and then do something else for a while. And so everything gets better.
That's why most people don't become business owners, right? Some people need to have that to-do list and finish that to-do list to go to sleep at night. And you can't do that as a business owner unless you're willing to work all the time. But I mean, we know after so many hours of working, your effectiveness dwindles so dramatically. You can't work 80 to 100 hours. And maybe if you're Elon Musk or, there's a select few people out there that can do that and be super effective for many hours in a day. But most of us, I mean, there's a reason why the 40-hour work week has stuck. Maybe it's because we don't like to change as human beings. But I mean, outside of that, I can see my productivity, it dwindles very fast after that. You give me the same task after I've already worked 40 hours than before I hit 40 hours. I know it's taking me longer to do because I'm a little exhausted. I'm a little distracted. I'm probably bored of some of the other work that I've had to fill my time with. And I'm going to be it's going to take me maybe 1.2 times as long or 1.5 times as long. So you can't get everything done. You have to be willing to live with that not everything you want to do will get done.
Yeah, even if you do work 20 hours a day, there's still stuff that don't get done.
Yeah,
and I love to work. I think that's the one of the only reasons that I actually got everything off the ground is like I'm willing to work all day long. I would go to work 7 a.m, 3:30 in the afternoon. Then I would get off, eat a little bit. And then by 4:00, I was back at the shop till midnight, wake up at 7, do it again the next day. And then weekends, you only get a couple of those. You get 4 weekends a month. So if you take one of those away, you're 25% less work for the month. So weekends were always a big one for me because I could work all day. So, I mean, there might have been people that were smarter than me or better with money or anything like that. But I was not going to get outworked. I could work forever. But I'm getting older now. And I'm starting.
I think that changes over. I think you're right as you get older. I mean, I've noticed that even for me, like, tax season 15 years ago is much different than how I want to approach a tax season now. I don't want to do 600 tax returns in a tax season anymore. So, at certain level, I think what you're going to find with your coaching is that pulling back with some of the hours and working smarter versus harder, is going to benefit you a ton. And just trying to lay out how you want to get things done and trying to find some people to execute that for you.
I also think there's, I don't know if it'd be a bell curve or how you'd map it out, but as you are needing to make higher level or more knowledge-based decisions on a regular basis, it's harder to then grind and also make these tough decisions, right? Because those tough decisions wear on you at a much faster pace than if I'm grinding out very basic work. It's very easy to sit there and grind out, I can run in a spreadsheet and plug in numbers and do stuff like that. It's not very fatiguing, right? But if you're trying to solve a really complex problem or work through a really tough situation or find a really tough repair, deal with a really intense employee situation, all that stuff, the amount of energy and brain power that takes, I think that is so much more significant, and people sometimes don't think about that. So maybe it's part of it, maybe is age, right? And you got other distractions, priorities in life, but some of it is as you elevate your work, it's more demanding and more challenging.
Yeah. Well, like with me working in the shop, if I'm out here, I could be the best person doing oil changes and services and whatnot, but is that really benefiting me to the fullest extent? Like for me to be doing that, it's not. Wow. And then one thing in our coaching that we had, I think it was one of our monthly meetings or something, they were going over stuff and they said, how many $100 decisions do you make a day? How many $1,000 decisions do you make a day? And then how many $10,000 decisions do you make? How many $100,000 decisions do you make? Is spending your whole day dealing with, $100 issues really spending your time wisely? You should be working on the big decisions and then delegating the smaller ones. And that's kind of how you get to grow quicker. Spend your time on.
I like that.
Yeah, I really like that mindset. So $100 decisions, $1,000 decisions, or $10,000 decisions.
I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, or $100,000 decision. If you're sitting here working on, the little stuff all day long, it's wasting your time when you could be working on the big stuff. And that's kind of the interim that I'm in right now, is like I still work in the shop all day long. So I gotta figure out and sort of kind of delegate when to do business stuff and when to do shop stuff. And it's a balancing act.
Always one of the biggest challenges as a business owner.
So how long you been doing your coaching now?
2.5, 3 years.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay.
It was actually the year that they did Vision online. So I think that was a couple of years ago.
Okay. So of those years of coaching and stuff like that, what's your number one takeaway?
Just one thing.
I know this probably meant. I suppose if you're to look at some of the things what do you think has benefited you the most in those 3 years,
or the most impactful? Yeah.
Being a coach, I was really nervous about hiring employees. I'd never done that. I've never had employees, and sometimes having somebody there to keep you accountable and to kick you in the ass when you need something that you have to do, but you're nervous about it. You need somebody to say, no, you have to do this, so do it. Yeah. So it's making tough decisions. Sometimes when you sit around and you think about it, it's nice to have somebody that's quit thinking about it, make a decision.
Yep.
I think it's an interesting perspective. So working with a coach, right? A lot of our listeners, especially shop owners, right, they're going to be apprehensive about the spend on a coach, where it's probably somewhere $1,000 to $2,000 a month you're going to pay for that relationship. But with that, you're going to get some accountability. They're going to help you understand not just the numbers of your business, but what drives it and what tweaking of those dials can you do to make the most impactful effects on your business. They're going to help you start to create processes and systems for your business, which is going to help you delegate, right? Because our biggest fear of delegation is they're not going to do as good of a job. And how do you combat that, right? I'm the expert. I know this. I know it best. Well, if you have really good systems and processes and tight lanes for them to maneuver in, super easy to delegate it, right? As long as they stay in their lane, they should get it done at least 80% as good as you would have gotten it done. And that's the golden rule of delegation. So they're going to do that. They're going to provide you a resource of, I know you said part of it, talking to somebody that knows what they're doing is to avoid making mistakes. I'm fine with making mistakes, like John said, because that gives you an opportunity to learn, and especially learn really good lessons sometimes. To me, it's not wasting the time of trying to accomplish something that's already been accomplished, right? If it's already been accomplished, there's a better way to do it. And I want to find that better way to get that thing done every time.
In less time.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so, that's a much better way to say it.
So that's why I love networking groups. I love talking to other business owners, shop owners. I think that's one of my favorite parts about our podcast is, there's somebody out there that's probably been thinking about starting a business. Maybe it's a shop and they've been thinking about it for 5 years. They hate their job. And maybe they listen to this podcast and they're like, well, this guy he went after it, started acquiring tools, starting to do the jobs that he can get done. And now he's got a real shop. Wow. It's totally doable. And I didn't have to just sit there in turmoil over it. Or maybe I want to hire my first employee. Right. And what do I need to think about?
Yep. And then two, if you're going to start from scratch, as soon as you start making some money, you don't buy a boat. you don't buy a race car. You don't move into a big fancy house. I don't have a vehicle payment on any of the vehicles that I own. They're all older. I'm trying to prove a point. Every one of them has almost 200,000+ miles on them, because I can look at a customer and say, we can keep that running forever because we maintain our vehicles correctly. So let us maintain yours.
Oh, there you go.
Well, you just basically read a page out of Rich Dad Poor Dad with all of that. Quite frankly, I don't know if you've read that or not, but
I did. Yep, that's a lot of great book.
Everything that you just kind of said is kind of what he would say is you're not going to overextend yourself and don't put yourself into debt and all that kind of good stuff. I think that's an extremely great point if you're out there and you're trying to establish yourself as a business owner and you're going through the rigmarole of trying to figure out your roadmap. Don't make a bunch of life changes at that point. Don't go from that house that you're at and go build, and you got a little extra money to put, go into that 5,000 square foot home or something like that.
Yeah. Imagine you go out and buy a big boat and you're making payments on it and some really good tech comes by and you can't hire the tech because you just spent a whole bunch of money on the boat.
Yeah.
No, hire the tech, spend it on the business. And then once you get to a point where you've got enough like sitting there, and you can start, taking a little bit. It's like building a fire. If you took and you had a little spark and you got a little flame here, and then you throw a giant log on it, there you go, fire's out. But if you slowly just add sticks to it and then you build a big fire and you throw a big log on it, it'll just burn up the big log and everything's good.
I like that.
So
that's why I bought a boat when I was still an employee.
Unless you take the boat and you wrap it and you're doing boat repairs, then buy a boat.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, so we have the coach. So we have the coaching program. Talk about Milwaukee. Let's talk about Milwaukee a little bit and giving back. You're obviously on a board of a chapter. Obviously, I guess this is news to our listeners. I knew that. I'm on the board.
It's new to me. We're good.
I'm also on a board of a chapter for Milwaukee as well. What if you want to give us a little rundown of what Milwaukee is and why are you devoting some of your free time to something that you probably don't get immediate ROI from?
It's a networking thing. It's just being able to network with people, and there are some there's benefits to it, like you get through advanced, you get rebates and stuff like that. But honestly, you could take all that away, double the price of it, and I would still do it. You could triple the price of it, I would still do it. It's getting to have people that are like-minded that you could talk to, and it's the networking, really. I think that's one of the biggest things with it. And then the training that comes in, they bring training in locally. I think they sponsor at Vision. They do the service tech thing now. That was new this year, and I think that went over really well. So it was a whole, was it 2 days at Vision there?
Yeah. So you could bring in your off the street, totally green technicians, and they had the really immersive 2 days of training that you could have signed them up for, and that sold out. I think that sold out well in advance of the event. So they had a lot of success for it. And it just shows you how eager and hungry there are people out there that want to be, the best of whatever job that they want to have or career that they want to pursue.
Yep. That was great. So the industry, just the group and everything is just, it's a good thing to be a part of.
Yeah. I find it so valuable. I mean, I'm not getting value of going to a diagnostic training class for working on vehicles. It does make me appreciate how intelligent these people have to be to work on cars. It really just affirms that mindset of, these aren't the parts changers and the grease monkeys that society maybe has branded technicians of yesterday as. I mean, some of these guys, I'm like, they probably if they spent the time and energy that they have learning the different systems and diagnostic techniques and all this stuff on learning tax law and accounting concepts, they'd probably be a way better accountant than I would.
I don't know about that.
They just enjoy nuts and bolts more than they enjoy and combustion than they enjoy numbers on paper and spreadsheets.
Or half the time now it's electrical stuff. I mean, you can fix an engine problem by updating a module.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But that's where, me contributing my time to that, I can see how it benefits the industry, where there's that training. There's a group of people there that got a ton of value out of this course that we sat through about a month ago. And, they're essentially, that's helping those business owners at the end of the day, which could be my clients tomorrow, or maybe they're friends with their clients tomorrow. And the better the business owner, the better the client they are for us. And so I look at it as a significant benefit for investing my time in helping with that association.
Well, with me switching accountants, over, I had somebody, but I threw Milwaukee inadvertently, kind of gained a resource there. That wasn't part of what they would write in a benefits package of what you get from Milwaukee, but it just happens like that.
I guess that's the networking benefit. And like you said, you're in a position where you had just signed up, I think, with Shop Fix for coaching, and they're like, "Where's your financials?" What was your response to that?
It was terrible. I didn't have for a year. I bet you every meeting for a year. Where's your P&L? Where's your P&L? We got to look at a P&L. And I didn't have one. So, I mean, we get those on monthly now, like clockwork. So that's been nice, because now I can say, hey, before you ask, here's a P&L.
Right.
And then like, that's just kind of, just seems like the P&L is, if you're going to pay attention to stuff, you keep your thumb right on that thing, and you can pay attention to stuff and catch things pretty fast. If you're looking at it 6 months later, you're 6 months behind.
Yeah,
that is interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's an interesting concept. So most business owners, especially a business owner in your position, right? You don't have this huge, 10-bay shop and, 3 locations, and where they're like, oh, they run their business by the numbers, right? You are not in that position. Now, all of a sudden you're getting a monthly P&L. Instead of just having your tax return filed, how has that impacted your business? How are those decisions that you're able to make on a month-to-month basis instead of on a year-to-year basis, or just no decision in general? How's that impacted it?
Spending isn't such a gut feeling anymore. It's kind of, you can look at a number and say, yes, that will be okay, or yes, that'll work, or no, we better not do that yet. Or you could see like, were we productive or not? Is there something that we're doing that's just costing too much that we could work on making more efficient somehow, like implementing more systems or something like that? There's got to be better ways of being more efficient. So it helps calculate all that stuff and look at where you need to focus your time on.
Totally. It is very easy to get in a cycle as a business owner to make decisions based on your gut, right? Because oftentimes we're forced to. Most of the time, it's either you don't have the data in front of you, or it's going to take a lot of work to get the data.
Yep.
You feel a heck of a lot better when you're making a decision, when you have data to support whatever decision you're going to make, or if you're making it based off of some data that you have. And for most business owners, that could be something as simple as your P&L, right? Hey, do we need to raise prices because my margin's too low? Do we need to add staff? You could say, hey, my labor percentage is too low. My cost is too low. Or my guy's stretched a little thin right now.
Yep. Or you would know that you have a problem with your parts matrix if your parts sales or your percentage isn't right. Mm-hmm. And then you can go in there and look at, it has to piggyback with something else though. You can't fully rely on just the P&L. The P&L kind of points you in a direction, and like a scan tool or something. And then you go that direction and you dig in a little further and dive in a little further, figure out. So then you can pull reports from your shop management system and look at your matrix. And maybe you find out like, well, the meat and potatoes of our parts sales are between $60 and $100. Maybe we, fatten that little area up because we sell more of those,
Totally. Or like, hey, maybe actually, I really like this example. I've heard, oh my God, you are not spending any money on marketing. But then I say, hey, well, look at their occupancy costs. Where's your building located? Are you on a major highway? Because you got to look at, if that's the case, you got to look at your marketing spend plus your occupancy cost, because part of your occupancy cost is marketing. If you're on a major intersection, you're paying a super premium for that location because that marketing spend is not as necessary. So It's not just, hey, there's never A and B, right? And looking at your P&L, that just gives you the idea, and then you got to dig in.
Yep.
And that's where having those resources, right? Whether it is your coach or your accountant, whoever it might be, to say, okay, we've identified there's something we need to look into. Where do we go from here? I think that's really impactful.
Yep. And then being able to dive into it. I switched my shop management system 3 years ago. And I tell you, at the time I was worried about what I was spending, but looking back on it, once again, I would spend twice what I spend on it to have it because it's far better. And there's things that I'd say attributed to us growing really fast, and switching shop management systems was a big deal.
We'll do a little plug. What shop management system are you on?
TechMetric.
Yeah,
there you go.
No, I always give them a little plug.
And I'm open to other things. I've looked at other shop management systems, and I just really like TechMetric. I think there's things they can improve on, but one thing, they got the board on there. You can go in there, and if you have an idea, type it in there. Enough people vote on it, they move it to the top of the list, and that's what they're working on.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, there's probably 3 or 4 shop management systems that we like, but TechMetric obviously has become the most popular one that we're seeing in the marketplace. Big change from Mitchell 5 years ago when I first started really diving in or actually, I guess it's been longer than 5. It's 2023 now. But when I started diving into the independent shop world, everything was Mitchell. Maybe Napa Tracks was another one. We have a lot of Napa in our area. That tide has changed so dramatically, and there's so many more players in that game. But, at the end of the day, right, you need something where you can access the data where you need it, and it gets it to you in a pretty reasonable pace. If I got to spend an hour building a report to get the answer I need, I'm probably not going to do it.
So I guess one of the things that is the purpose or the reason for having our shop is it's clear that there's not enough transparency with customers on their cars. If somebody goes to a shop and the shop tells them you need X, Y, and Z, and you have to say, maybe I do, maybe I don't, I need to go get a second opinion for that. So I guess high up on my priorities is to make it so that if somebody comes into the shop and we tell them something, there is very clear evidence of why. And it's all laid out very transparently so that they understand what's going on. And then I always look at every estimate, like if my estimate and inspection went to another shop, would a technician from that shop read it and say, well, seems like they got it right. There's the video, there's the picture, there's the estimate. Looks like that's what you need.
Wow. Now you're prioritizing integrity within your product. I like that.
But TechMetric allowed us to do that with the digital vehicle inspections and the texting, and like the way they do things allows us to be that transparent. And there's other management systems that also do that. They're not the only one, but I went from one that had none of that to one that had all that. And I was already, even in my garage at my house, I have it on my phone yet. I was using my notes app, taking pictures of VIN numbers, mileage, everything. I was doing all that at my house before I even knew there was a shop management system that you could do that. Like it just fit right with the way I've always wanted people to understand. Like if I'm telling you this, I'm not lying to you. You really do need it.
No, that's interesting. So I think there was like that old mentality where people were very wary of the, let's say a mechanic, down the street and them telling them, they thought they were trying to make a sale where they didn't have to, that kind of thing. And, I don't know if that's still a thing. I mean, I don't think that's with anybody that I've ever worked with. I never thought they were trying to upsell me on anything. So I guess I don't know if do you feel that mentality is changing? Because I feel like, people like you who are running shops with the transparency, do you think you're making that impact on the market where you're might be up in the game of somebody down the street who maybe did rely on you maybe are quote unquote scare tactic, but you being that, hey man, I can get your car to 200,000 miles. This is how we're going to do it. This is the plan I see for your car. These are the things you're going to have to probably fix and change or update at these different mile markers or something like that. I think that's extremely huge because cars are more expensive. I look at even like, most of them, even the cars I have two 2013s and one 2016 or two 2016s. So, they're not horribly old, but they're not new either, So,
and the key to making something last is maintenance. It's just, but the problem with maintenance is if you're a consumer and you own your car and you're like, I want to be really educated about my car. And so I'm going to look in my user manual about what intervals I need to do stuff at. Yeah. Well, so the manufacturers, I'm not going to pick on anybody, but they're saying, yeah, do it X, Y, and Z mileage or whatever. But what they're not telling, or they'll say it's lifetime fluid. But if you asked, well, what is lifetime? Well, they're just trying to get it out of warranty. That they're not setting those time frames based on, I want to get my car to 200,000 miles. They're basing those on, it'll make it out of warranty if you do that. So the manufacturer's recommendations are there, but you kind of got to listen to them, but not really.
Well,
sometimes.
I think the market for selling cars is pretty interesting in comparison to the market for, trying to maintain your car, because I think with selling cars, it's still, I think we even talked about this the other day, is selling units, right?
Yep.
And, they're trying to push as many units and I'm trying to not buy any units, quite frankly.
Yeah. And what they also do with stretching out those intervals is they'll, on the sheet, when you see them, it says the cost of ownership.
Yep.
They're trying to make it look like your cost of ownership is less if you buy this one, if you do 20,000 mile oil changes.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah, you'll get out of warranty if you're just traded it in just fine. But if you're wanting that thing to last and get it a ways and not have to buy another car, that's probably not the right way to maintain it.
Well, and how long are those cost of ownership calculations for? 5 years?
Yeah, something like that. And the problem usually isn't the person that buys it. It's usually about the third owner. That's the person getting, they bought this car and they're like, I can make the payments. But then you look at it and you're like, nobody's done anything to this since it was bought. And now they've acquired this huge bill. And so that's where it comes into being. You need to educate the person, because otherwise they might interpret you telling them they need all this stuff as you're trying to rip them off. So you got to be able to navigate that. You got to be able to navigate that and communicate that in a way that lets them understand, like, I'm trying to help you make this last. And there's some things that we're going to have to do. Now, you don't have to do all of this at once, but over the period of the next year, we need to start like taking care of some of these things. And what we've done is prioritized them top to bottom, do 2 this time, 2 next time, things like that.
That brings me back to probably literally 10 years ago today. I would have been right in service at a dealer. And I mean, that sounds a lot like how I would sell. If I had a big ticket with a 10 mile long ride up, right? Usually first time customer, no service history.
Yep.
I know if I got approached and I said, hey, you need the whole riot list done today, I'd be like, I have zero trust in you. Right. So then, I always broke it down, right? Safety, drivability, short-term maintenance, long-term maintenance. Right. And I always broke it down in sections like that. And I said, okay, here's what you really should do today, 'cause there's safety concerns. Here's stuff that's like, you're on the edge, like you're already here. You might as well do it. Otherwise you're, between now and the next service interval, you're probably going to stretch it then. And then, here are things like, fluid exchanges, certain cleanings, things like that, hey, I'm giving you advice on how to make your vehicle the most optimal vehicle possible. If you don't do this, there's no guarantee something's going to go wrong. Nothing's going to break. But if you want the best performing car you can have, you should have all this stuff done and on these specific intervals, and which are not generally listed in the owner's manual of a vehicle. It's above and beyond.
We just made our own. Yeah. Like we use not to plug anybody else, but we use a lot of BG products. Mm-hmm. And I like nice things. And I think they back all of it up with some good info. And I've had really good luck with a lot of their products. So I just use all their products. That's what I use on my vehicles, what I use on customers' vehicles. And then, they give you a whole bunch of data behind it and ways to show what the product does and why it's beneficial to do it. And it's not a can to fix all, pour it in there, everything's fixed. They're maintenance items. You need to do them regularly as maintenance. You can't just dump one in there and now it fixes everything. Like that's not what it's intended for.
All right, another BG Products plug. On September 12th, if you are in the Chicagoland region, we are having a class on BG products, their maintenance and service products. So it's a little education session on the different fluids, intervals, things like that, selling techniques. So if you're a shop owner, you have service advisors, or you're a service manager, or you're the shop owner, you should definitely consider attending that. I believe it's September 12th, and it'll be listed on the Milwaukee website.
That's great.
That might be my first advertisement I've done on one of these podcasts, but it just happened to work out.
Right after Tech Metric, that's all right.
I haven't said any other names. I try not to drop a whole lot of names.
That's okay.
No. Well, I mean, we're here honestly to provide education, right? And we're all entitled to our opinions, and we've used services and we've had successes with them, right? You're not saying any other product or service is inferior if you have a discussion around it. So, I mean,
it's just like customers going to shops. I mean, sometimes customers fit at some shops better than they do others. Like for me, Tech Metric works really good because it fits well with what I want to do.
Yep.
Somebody that doesn't want to do digital inspections and texting or anything, there's other ones that are cheaper that do just as well a job, or I think Techmetric has a lower end one that takes some of that stuff off too, maybe.
Well, and the coaching programs even more so, right? Because they're all pretty much going to reinforce the same concepts, right? It's going to be look at your numbers, use your KPIs, create systems and processes. I mean, they're all doing the same thing, but they all have their own personality to it, right? And you got to figure out which personality speaks to you as a business owner the best way possible. And so there's really no slight against any of them, right? You know, ShopFix has become a great fit for you, and it's really changed your business. And that's because you've probably been able to connect with your coach very well.
I think ShopFix has really helped me start my business. It's not like I was like a lot of things that I read, like what I read is like, oh, I've been in business for 15 years and we're really drowning. And then, you know, ShopFix saved me. I see a lot of those, but I haven't seen a lot of them that are like, oh, I started a shop a month ago. And first thing I did was go out and hire a coaching company for $1,000 to $2,000 a month. Like, that's not high up on somebody's list most of the time, but I think it's worth it. You'll get out of it what you put in it. If you spend and you don't put any effort into it, then you're not going to get much out of it. But if you put some effort into it and you know, try some things and do some stuff, you'll get a lot out of it.
Totally.
That's for sure.
What's also cool about coaching programs, and I'll just plug myself being non-biased again, or probably by the end of the month, we'll have a fourth shop owner that uses a fourth different coaching company. And that just tells you, and they're all very successful shop owners. That just tells you, you know, whoever's the right fit for you and you can jive with and learn to listen to. I mean, just heeding the advice. I think that's number one. Are you willing to action on that advice? So,
I see that as just reinvesting in yourself.
100%.
You know?
Yep. And it doesn't necessarily mean that everything that coaches say, or that's 100% how you have to do it. You can kind of take whatever you're told and kind of tailor it to whatever works in your situation.
Definitely. Well, Colten, you've been a wealth of knowledge for our listeners today. Anybody who's ready to make that leap of, you know, going out on your own, or, you know, hey, maybe we got to do the spend on the marketing, or a coach, something, another resource, right? Don't be afraid to spend, but don't be dumb with your money. I guess that'd be a good principle.
Don't buy that boat. Don't buy that
don't
boat.
Buy that boat.
Don't buy it. Don't trip over dollars to pick up pennies.
Yeah, there you go. I like
saying.
That. Yep.
So thank you so much for your time. Anybody who is looking for auto repair, Colten, where can people find you?
We got a website. It's just ramseyrepair.com. We got Ramsey Repair Instagram, Facebook. Don't have a Snapchat or a TikTok or YouTube, but just the big three. Otherwise, if you're in the area, Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Cedar Rapids, Iowa. All right, listeners.
It was nice meeting you.
Great to meet you, or great to see you. We'll probably talk soon, and we'll see you at the next Milwaukee Leadership event.
Appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right, thanks.
We'll see you. Thanks, guys.
You have been listening to the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. You can hear more real stories from real business owners about what it takes to make it in business by subscribing to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you like what you hear, leave a review and a 5-star rating. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs and Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com.